As we mentioned, the Knicks have moved into the third spot in the Eastern Conference, a team that they supplanted, the team that had been in that third spot for much of the season. The Philadelphia 76ers have since fallen off. Bad news all the way around for them. Knee injury and a loss to Golden State for Joel Embiid on Tuesday night. That's the fourth straight loss for the Sixers. They've fallen to fifth now behind the Knicks and the Cavs. Nick Nurse, after the game, said that what happened to Embiid on Tuesday night was unrelated to what kept him out in the previous two games. He's scheduled to have an MRI today. What else is new? He's always having an MRI. Didn't look like he should be playing.
Needs to be studied. Do we need to? Should we start a therapy fund for you, John?
Yeah. Did you get online and just like write Elmo a bunch? Were you just tweeting at Elmo nonstop yesterday?
You guys told me I should believe. And I started to believe, and look what happened. Right? All of a sudden, the wheels come off and Embiid is hurt.
Not in the group chat. What did he say, Bill? What was the quote?
Something about hope is dead, and I don't know.
Believing is for suckers.
Believing is for suckers.
Believing for suckers, John.
Believing is for suckers.
And Dr. J is not coming out of retirement.
He is not. Although I would take him. Avery, talk to me here about. So there was a lot of. And you guys know there's a lot of, in our group chat, there was a lot of people going, oh, Embiid is ducking Jokic in Denver. He should be out there, right?
I made that joke.
Now,
yeah.
He didn't
play in Denver. He didn't play in Portland. They lost both of those games. Didn't look like he was going to play in Golden State. Didn't look like he should have played in Golden State. There was one moment, Avery, I'm not sure if you saw it, where he went to load up and jump and he fell down to the ground. He still played 30 minutes. Take us through what goes into a guy like Embiid with an injury history like his, who was sitting out and then decides to come back, and like why they decided to let him play, you think?
See, this is a situation when a coach really needs to step up and demand what's best for the player, even if the player opposes it. Joel Embiid, in my opinion, and I don't know all of the medical, obviously I'm not on the training staff or medical staff, but based on watching him warm up, watching him not being able to load and really explode, he should not have played last night. That was it.
Yes, 100%.
All right.
His breathing looked a little labored too. It looked like he was struggling to catch his breath. And I mean, usually, Embiid plays with such tenacity, right? So like you usually see him at parts of the game, like catching or looking to catch his breath, but that's usually much deeper into the game. I mean, it seemed like from tip off, he could not get a deep breath in.
It was not going to be.
You wonder what's going on there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Coach, can I ask you a question? Because the defense kind of coming out of Philly today and talking to some folks is like, look, we need to win the game. We got to keep pace. Here come the Knicks. And you've been in this. Do you buy the idea that in January, right? It was January still yesterday, that you're making these kind of on the margins decisions if you want to give these guys benefit of the doubt, because you're really worried about the second or third or fourth spot this early? Is that a legitimate, when you were coaching, thing that goes into your mind when you're trying to figure out whether to play a guy like Embiid?
The really good teams that I played on and the championship team that I coach, caliber team that I coach, we were always worried about ourselves. It really didn't matter where we finished in the standings, because at the end of the day, whether we were third or sixth or second, if we were a good team, a playoff team, we didn't need home court advantage.
Can I get a little petty for a second? Can I just throw a little messy question
Petty's good.
in the mix?
We get more.
Can I do that? Okay, look. I will give Joel Embiid the benefit of the doubt for last night. He obviously did not look 100%. You know, like I said, his breathing was labored. He didn't look as explosive. Okay, cool. So that excuses why he wasn't in Denver. But nobody thinks it's a coincidence that he has never played Jokic in Denver since 2019.
I agree.
John's out here, by the way, the craziest coincidence?
John's throwing
I believe in a lot of things.
This Embiid Jokic record at us all the time. Is it 6-2? And it's like, bro, you gotta play in Denver for that record to count.
Shouldn't have.
It is absurd. Yes,
it's absurd. He should not have played in Denver. He should not have played in Portland. He should. No, I'm saying. Forget about previous history. I'm sorry that, like, coincidentally it lines up with your conspiracy. And it lines up with your conspiracy.
Come on.
Taylor Swift is a psyop and a deep state operative too.
Well, you made a real weird leap there. We got to get you with Elmo again.
I would have preferred
a big jump.
I would have preferred him to play in Denver and tried to play in Denver and maybe, go out of the game a little early, but not, no.
But he shouldn't have played in Denver. He shouldn't have played in Portland. He shouldn't have played last night.
But that's not what I asked you, John. I said, let's take this equation. Let's take this scenario out of the mix. He obviously is not 100%. You don't find it coincidental that for years, every time Jokic and Embiid have to play each other in Denver, Embiid, for whatever reason, doesn't play, can't play, won't. You don't find that odd.
Did that look coincidental to you last night?
I said, take this one out of the equation.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. I mean,
okay. Bill, you're a fellow conspiracy theorist. Go ahead.
I mean, Ashley, I'm with you. I think maybe, Embiid should not have played in Denver this time. I didn't think that was true until I saw him hobbling on one leg against the Warriors last night. Granted, but it's hard to give a guy like that the benefit of the doubt, right? The boy who cried wolf, even though it turns out to be real. When he is dodging Jokic over the years, when he doesn't play a lot of games, it's hard to get a game. And that's probably why it creates more pressure for Nick Nurse. But I think, Coach, what you said is straight on. I hadn't thought of it. It's right on. A lot of these teams that win NBA championships, I know the Heat didn't last year, but the Miami Heat believe even today that they're going to make a run. They're worried about them. I wish Nick Nurse could get to that place a little bit more just so that John, from a mental health perspective, can be a little better off over the next few months.
Yeah.
Look, this 65 game threshold that's out there, I think that was a big pressure point for him to play last night because people like Ashley and Bill who go, oh, he never played in Denver in the past.
It's a TNT game.
He comes along and he goes, well, now I should try to play because I didn't play those last two games. I am getting heat from people. It's a Golden State TNT national game, as Bill just mentioned. I'm going to force myself out there. He's not the only one who thinks the 65-game threshold is stupid. It's probably going to cost him the MVP award and also maybe his health. Tyrese Halliburton, who came back last night after missing 10 of 11 games, he returned. He said that he called it a stupid rule, which I think he's right, because if he misses 3 more games, it's probably going to cost him $41 million on his next contract.
Okay,
explain to me how that's a good idea.
Let me just give you real quick. Sorry, Ashley.
Coach had said earlier, sometimes you have to save the player from themselves. So regardless of Embiid felt the pressure of the noise of the people on Twitter and whoever else, it's up to the responsibility of the Philadelphia 76ers organization, like Coach said, to say, listen, I know you want to play. I cannot have you out there. They didn't do that. They take some of the blame as well. Don't put that on Embiid.
But thank you, Ashley.
Let's
go back to something you just said. 65 games is a stupid rule. Why?
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
It's arbitrary. It's completely arbitrary. And it's messing with people's money.
Players, first of all, it's a shame that the NBA had to install a rule to force the players to play in more games in the first place. Because, I'm not just saying this because I played 4 straight years of 82 games, even though I wasn't an all-star. But
you've always been tougher than most, though.
I love to play the game. And I didn't want the young man that was coming to see me play in Detroit that drove 100 miles, and I'm sitting over there with some load management or resting, and I'm out tonight. So I think the NBA was forced to establish this rule because of this new NBA players taking nights off, especially on nationally televised TV nights.
Let me just very quickly because I have the NBA league office's perspective on this. I met with some folks today, talked to some folks today. They're taking heat. And at least right now, Coach, they're on your side. They are very steadfast in this is the right approach. And this is not my perspective. I'm just telling you right now, we are probably not going to change it. It's the right deal. And in response to Halliburton in particular, and again, this is just their thinking, not mine, they'll point out that they had to talk to the union about this, that the $41 million maybe doesn't go to Tyrese Halliburton, but that money, it doesn't stay with the owners, right? They get a chunk of BRI. It just goes to a different player. So to your point, Coach, the league thinks it's right. And they think it serves people who are watching games and fans, even if it's not great for individual guys. And Joe Dumars, who's in charge of these things, right? He's the point person in the league office. I mean, this is an old school guy who averaged 72 or 73 games a year when he played. So at least right now, and I think there's a reasonable pushback on this and a reasonable conversation and a reasonable perspective, Ashley, that like this is ridiculous. And obviously some players here, but real quick, just let me finish. I'm just saying the NBA league office, they are not moved by any of this. Right or wrong, they think this is right, exactly what they wanted. And they think that even if people like us are complaining, this is the way that it should be.
Maybe the numbers should be changed, but there should be a threshold. You shouldn't be able to play 30 games in a season and win an MVP award. I mean, maybe there's pushback on the number, and we can argue the number. Maybe 65 is too low. Maybe it should be 70. Maybe it should be 72. I don't know.
That's crazy.
I mean, 70 is low.
There should be a number. Like
nobody's playing that many.
But why not trust the press? Rachel Nichols pointed this out. I want to give her credit. Like, why not just let people who vote? Because like last year, Giannis played 63, Embiid played 66, LeBron and did KD make All-NBA? Those guys, Lillard was on there. Those guys were under this threshold. So maybe the problem is the trajectory they saw, but I'd rather, as a voter, get to make my own decision about how many games.
We see how that goes.
You know what? Not that this have anything to do with it, but switching the two players that hasn't played a ton of regular season games over the last couple of years, but it's been a breath of fresh air to watch Kawhi Leonard and Paul George make the regular season more important this year. And I like to see that those guys have been more available than in the past. Not that it has anything to do with the 65 game threshold, but and guess what? I know we're not on this subject, but the Clippers are for real.
Yes, the Clippers are for real.
By the way, to your point, the league office is like numbers. They claim that there's 10% less load management this year at this stage than there was last year at this stage. Like, so it is. I don't know if it correlates to the Clippers. Interesting question what Kawhi values, but it is working, even if it's ugly because of Embiid and Halliburton.
I think it's sort of a fallacy. It's never been an issue in the past. Last year, Embiid won the MVP when he had played 66 games. Prior to that, the lowest number for an MVP had been 58 games way back in the day with Bill Walton. It's never been an issue before now. Now, all of a sudden, it's an issue. And you would think that maybe Embiid gets a little grace for scoring 70 points previously. But under this new rule, to qualify for the 65 game threshold, you have to play 20 minutes or more. You can't just start a game and then check out. So I think that goes into what we saw from Embiid trying to get out there last night, and Tyrese Halliburton. I think he's got a great $41 million. If he doesn't get it, that's a lot of money.